and I'm going to go ahead and click on the pink, and that's the color I have. So this is the color picker, and even though it looks kind of complex, it's a little, well, yeah, it's complex, all right. So let me go ahead and explain this in different sections. First, I want to point out this section right here, this little rectangle. And as you can see, the words new and current. Well, if I was to move the marker here a little bit higher, you can see that there are some changes. So the top section is going to be the new color that is being shown as I move this marker back and forth. And if I was to move the slider, I've got a whole new set of colors that I can choose from. Now it turns into a green, as you can see. The section on the bottom, right above the word current, is the previous or the original hot pink that we had choose. Well, I guess it's not hot pink, but a pink. So it's the original pink that I have selected. And I can stop right here, and I'm going to press OK. And as you can see in my foreground right here, the color, the foreground did change to that green that I selected. So I'm going to go ahead and click this again. And when I do first enter into the color picker, the first thing I normally do is play around with this slide here. This is the color slide, and as you can see, as I go up, you'll see a whole bunch of things kind of changing, and then I decide, okay, let's say I want a blue, and now I can click into the larger color picker area here, and then I can move the marker around. As you can see, the top section of this adjustment area changes according to my movement. Here we have it again. Okay, so first thing I do is play with the slider, then I go into this larger color picker area and decide what tone of that color that I originally landed, which, I guess, type of color. So in other words, if I chose a blue, what kind of blue? A lighter blue or a darker blue? A navy blue? Or actually, believe it or not, black is a shade of blue. Actually, black is a shade of all colors. And there is a lot of color theory involved in this color picker section. We're not going to go into it as much, but I'll be referencing them. In fact, I have a reference section on the bottom of this page, which can help you learn about a lot of the things we're going to be discussing here. Okay, and as I move up here, you'll notice that there are two icons on the right side of the adjustment area. You'll see that there is sort of like a warning sign, and let's go ahead and move the cursor over. There it is right there. So what does that tell you? Well, if I move in, you'll see that it says warning out of gamut for printing, and see if I can try to bring that back up again. There it is, warning, out of gamut for printing. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means if I want to print, I may not get the same blue as I want here. And that could be a concern if you're into printing, if you're creating print products like business cards and brochures, things of that nature. The other icon over here, and we'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, see if I can try to make the words appear. Warning, not a web safe color. Well, now, so what they're saying here is that it's not only printable, or may not come with the same blue as you print, you might not also have the same luck if you design a website and want to use this blue. So do I choose a different blue? No, not really. I mean, it'll come close, and if I have to make adjustments, then I'll make the adjustments. But that's what these two icons are for. They kind of give you a warning, a heads up, if you will, before you decide to press the OK. OK. And speaking of web, the web is kind of limited in colors. And if you remember when we did presets, the web is only accommodating 72 dots per inch. So it doesn't need that huge array of colors. So if I was to choose this blue, I'm going to go ahead and click on only web colors. Now look what happens there. So Photoshop kind of displays web colors or web safe colors. and pretty much it chops up the colors. As you can see, I can still go ahead and select different parts of it, and you can see that the color is being adjusted. And I can choose gray if I want. I can choose this color, and now we're kind of getting out of the blue zone, I suppose. So I'll try to return back to where it was normally. But that's web colors. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and undo that and bring it back to where I normally would make selections. So now the question, what's with all these numbers over here? And as I move the marker all the way down, you see the numbers kind of going crazy. Well, let me go ahead and explain, but before I do explain, I do have references down below. And again, I'm not going to go too much into color theory here because you're here to learn a software. Color theory, we can spend weeks talking about that. There's so much involved here. It involves what is known as the color circle, and with that takes a lot of time in a classroom environment. So I'm not going to go ahead and explain too much about it because pretty much what I normally do is I use my eye, I use my own judgment, I use my own feelings. If I really like this blue, I'm going to use it. Okay, same thing, if I like this yellow, I'm going to use that. So I don't really worry too much what the colors say. I don't really worry about what these warning signs say. I just use it based on my own eye. But let me explain to you what these colors are. Each one of these sections over here represent a set of numbers that is used by, well, whoever wants to use them. There's HSB, which stands for hue, saturation, brightness. RGB, which again, as I explained in a few sections before, it basically stands for red, green, and blue, used mainly by digital artists. LAB, again, I'm not familiar with that, but I would imagine photographers use it. It's another way of measuring colors. And CMYK is another way of measuring colors, but it's mainly for those interested in print products. So which one should you use? Well, it all depends who you ask. But as you can see, no matter where I select, okay, no matter what I do, the HSB values are going to result in RGB values that produce pretty much the same color. So once again, I'm not going to go too much into it. In this class, we're going to use the I, that's EYE, and we're going to use what we feel is the best and what's appealing to us. All right, let's say I love this green right here. It's a nice lime green, and I want to hold on to it for future use. Well, that's where add to swatches come in. So what is a swatch? Well, basically, it's a window, and I'll go ahead and find window and click on swatches. And there you see right there, okay? Okay, so basically what I would do is I would go ahead and decide, well, one thing I do notice is that I already have a similar green over here. Why don't we change it up? Why don't we choose a nice purple and see if we get the nice loving feeling that we have. There we go. Nice purple, beautiful. So now, I love this purple, so I've got an RGB value of 132, 28, and 162. And one thing I didn't mention before is this right here. That is known as the hex number. And a hex number is widely used by web designers. So a hex number is basically 6 digits, letters or numbers that define the value of a color. And this one I use a lot. I also use RGB, I use CMYK. I don't really use lab and I don't use HSB. And the colleagues that I work with, well, we just use RGB and the hex number. So once more time, it all depends on who you are, the work that you do, whatever is your preference, that's what we do. And Photoshop does a great job in accommodating all types of professionals so they can do their best work. Okay, I love this purple. I'm going to not want to write down this RGB value and hope to keep it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to swatches. And I'm going to click And there it is right there. And I'm just going to call it Hagues purple. Okay, and again, this is kind of a funny way of saying it. A lot of people put the RGB value there, or different kind of numerical values, or the purple for it. You know, say um, grapes, or the Minnesota Vikings, or whatever the case may be. I'm going to press OK, and there it is. It appears right over there. All right, and pretty much that covers the color picker. And let's move on to the next section.